All right, we really have to finish. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Uh, there's another couple of paragraphs left in the Devar Malchut, but I wanted to get this one idea here clear. It's from a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in what year was it? Not very early. One second. Let's see. Where's the speech? Here we go. There we go. It's a speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe in the year 1959. Okay, so here it's talking about the journeys of the Jewish people in the desert and how this is relevant to us. So here we go. How is it relevant to us? Vegan the Membase Masos, regarding the 42 journeys. Are we recording? Yes, we're recording. Okay. Vegan the Membase Masos, regarding the 42 journeys that the Jewish people took in the desert. If you count the journeys from the time they left Egypt until they came up to the land of Israel, so there's 42 journeys, and they're all listed in the second half of this week's Torah reading, which is one whole Torah portion called Maseh. Okay, so there's 42 journeys. Now we know that everything in the Torah is found inside of us. That's one of the basic tenets of Chabad Hasidut. Hasidut in general, but especially Chabad Hasidut, that everything in the Torah is inside of us. So we all have inside of us a Moses and an Aaron and a Haman and a Pharaoh. Everything is inside of us. Okay, so also inside of us is also these 42 journeys. 42 journeys. So the 42 journeys every Jew has to make in his life. There's a lot of different ways of looking at this. So here's one way. Regarding the 42 journeys that we have to make that the Jews made back then 3,300 years ago in Parshas Masa'eh. As Zok the Baal Shem Tov says, as Zainin Aleph Aran by Yed Yidin, it's and every single Jew has to make these 42 journeys. B'meshech Shanot Chayav, from the time that a person is born until the end of his life. Let's see, how does it start off? It says there's 42 journeys that they went out of Egypt. That's when a person is born, comes out of the womb. He's born, comes out of Egypt. The Jewish people in Egypt were like a fetus in the womb. And so are we. We're not like a fetus in the womb. We were really fetuses in our mother's womb. We born, that's the beginning of the journey. Dernach afterwards, in the course of his life, Sha'ara Masot, the other 42 journeys, 41 journeys, Biz Kumt, until it comes to Eretz HaChaim Elyonim, until a person passes away. Is sufficient, and even though that among these journeys, there are certain journeys that the Jewish people took in the desert, and they were the opposite of what God wants. Is If so, how can you make an order of things that God is like promising that you're going to go through these 42 journeys, that you're certainly going to do sins? As a Seder, there has to be things that are not good. Now, it's a very basic tenet of Judaism, especially the way the Baal Shem Tov stresses it, that every human being is essentially good. And Jews especially so. Every human being is created in the image of God. That's what God said to Noah. That was like 1,600 years after Adam ate from the tree. So everyone basically is good. That's the idea of doing tshuva. You just return to this good, the fact that I'm being created by God. Or, and as far as a Jew goes, that I'm a servant of God, I'm the son of God, I'm the wife of God. The different terms that are. So how can it be that God is setting up that in the course of our life, we're going to have to go through 42 journeys? And there were journeys that were bad when the Jewish people worshiped the golden calf, when they were complaining they did various sins. The whole book, we just finished the book of, finishing now, the book of Numbers, that is just replete with all these sins. Then God gets angry at the, it says, Arba'im Shana Kut Bador, it says, all 40 years you made me angry that you were wandering in the desert. We're going to have to do, everybody has to do that. Everybody has to do bad things. Not only is man basically good, but also what people do is we have the opportunity, the ability to do only good. So how can it say here that that there's going to be bad things? 42 journeys you're going to have to make, and a lot of them are going to be bad. What does that mean? No, we're going to do bad things. We're going to do sins. Is this moving? So it's understood according to what the Baal Shem Tov is the Masa'ot, that these journeys, Mitzad Atzmam, on their own, they are holy, written in the Torah. Nor, es ist doch gegeben geworden, bechira, true that we have free will. But the journeys, everything written in the Torah is supposed to be good. We have a choice that we can make things good or not. But here it says in the Torah that we're going to choose wrong. Huh? It says in the Torah that we're going to do what the Jews did. They chose to do sins. We're determined it's going to be bad. Mitzad Maseim Zainen Rois Gekumen, because of their deeds, there came these bad things. Aber B'shas the Bechira, says the Rebbe, no. When there's the choice, the Jewish people, the Torah is telling us that there's times that the Jewish people made the wrong choices. But before they made the choices is VS Darfsein, before a person, I'm sorry, Aber B'shas the Bechira Adam. But when a person chooses properly, that you should choose life, and you're also empowered by God, and God helps you to choose the right thing. That's the whole book of the Tanya. It says where there's a 14th after the God helps you. 13th chapter. Val the Torah, because the Torah says is Becharta B'chaim. The Torah says you should choose life. Done Zainen Olam Asos, then all of the journeys, Aliyos Michal Ochal, they'll go from higher to higher. So true, it says that there's bad things the Jewish people did. They sinned with the daughters of Moab. We just finished now. It says, but the Torah is telling us, no, they had a choice. And they just made the wrong choice. You'll be presented with the same choice, but you won't necessarily make the wrong choice, and God will help you to make the right choice. Uladugma, for instance, Bring Te'er does the Masa from Kivros HaTa'ava. There was the journey of Kivros HaTa'ava. It says the Jewish people, they got disgusted with the man. They didn't want the manna every day, and God gave them birds, whatever. It says they were all complaining. But Sham Kovru at the Alma Mitavim. It says over there, the Jewish people, those who had desire, right, the lusting for food, so God made a plague and they died. So it's called Kivrot HaTa'ava. They were buried because of their desires, because of their lust. Is there Inyan and Kedusha, but in holiness, how can that be holy that you get buried because you lust after things? It says this is a very, very high level of if you use it properly, a very high level of holiness. A madrega vusi is nit shayach kain taiva. It's a level where it's not going to be relevant to do any lusting after bad things. Nit norvas b'pol. Not only you don't have any desires, you hold yourself back. Nor kavru ad mitavim. You bury your desires. As mi is garnit together at zol zayin shayach taiva. You won't have there won't be in the category of wanting desire. Nor mitzad hit arvut only because when the side of evil gets mixed in is gavorn at siur, there could be something that's bad. That's what the Baal Shem Tov said. Right. So let's take a simple example. A person that he's a liar. He likes to lie. He likes to lie. He can't tell the truth. He likes to lie. And he benefits from it. He lies. He cheats people, etc. Right. He lies. So he gets caught by the police, he gets put in jail, and he realizes this is no life, right? I'm not getting anyone, I'm hurting people. It's not any life. So he holds himself back. He still likes to lie, but he holds himself back. Oh, I have to tell the truth. I'm going to have to tell the truth. But then there's a point where he starts to love the truth. The truth is a good thing. And he realizes, what am I doing? I was just hurting people. I was being selfish. I was using people. And I have to be true. There's a danger in being true, right? Maybe I won't make a lot of money. Maybe I won't. But then he gets to the point where he says, there's no maybe. I just love the truth. I can't lie. That's stupid. Why should I do a thing like that? And he starts to love the truth. He starts to love the truth. It's not relevant for him that he's going to do bad things. Not relevant. Like there's a story about one of the Hasidim of the Rebbe that he wanted to do a sin, but then he thought, one second, I'm a Hasid of the Rebbe. How can a Hasid of the Rebbe do a sin? It's not relevant. So he just buried the desires. He says when a person is aware of how precious life is and how precious truth is, and life and truth, that's just aspects of God. So it's impossible for a person to do bad. So, but a person is sometimes presented with the choices, and he has to make the proper choices. But if he's really connected to the truth, then the choices are easy for him, right? It's easy for him to just turn his eyes away from seeing bad, or turn his mouth away from seeing bad things, or just doesn't come into his mind to do. So that's the 42 journeys where there's bad things. The 42 journeys that everyone must take in his lifetime, these journeys are things, which were up until now, which things look in the past, which of the things you used for good, and which you did not make the right choices. But regarding from now and onward, the journeys which are still in front of us, you have a free will, free choice, and the commandment, to use all of the opportunities that you have in the future, all of the challenges you have in the future, and transform them to opportunities and to blessings. You can use them for good. Sometimes there's hard decisions you have to make, but the Torah helps you and tells you that there is a decision. There is good, and there's the opposite of good. If you don't have the Torah, then a lot of times there's no choice. You just go after whatever you want, right? There's always big movements in mankind. Just do what you want to, in different guises, right? In different forms. But basically is that we're coming to free you. You can do whatever you want. You can have a good time in life. Just free yourself. And so that, so to speak, it's taking away your choice. They're saying that what's bad, being selfish, is really good. So it's taking away your choice. The Torah comes along and says, listen, that's not so. Sometimes what feels good is not necessarily good. It could be very bad. Choose. Either you choose something eternal, good, or you choose something that's temporarily feels good. And especially mitzad dominion, because of the thing of Bacharta B'chaim, that God says you should choose life. That's the tree of life, Panemius Torah, the inside of the Torah. Velcha is Megaladem Tov, which reveals the good which is in every single thing. And the Hepech, and the opposite from what's not good. The Torah tells us what is good, absolutely, and what is bad, absolutely. Then there's always times where there's gray areas in between where you're not really sure. Like there's some things which are forbidden, but in certain situations it's okay. To drive on Shabbat, you can't. But if it's to save someone's life, you can. What is exactly saving somebody's life? So there's the Shulchan Aruch that explains. So there's a lot of times you have to go and ask rabbis. There's big books which are written and questions and answers that people add. What exactly, how does the Torah exactly apply here? But the fact is it does apply. And that's our compass for what is good and what is bad. That's our compass. Absolute good and bad. So if someone tells you that anyone who has money, you have to take it from him because money is evil and you have to kill anybody who's a capitalist, right? So that's what he says. So your conscience starts to bother you if you don't kill capitalists, right? Your conscience says this is the right thing to do if he says it's right. But the Torah says the opposite. So what am I supposed to do? It says, now you have a choice. Now you've got a choice. And that's what the Rebbe is saying. You have to choose life. Die Welche, die selbe Sache, the same thing is also regarding to the time where we're in the 3 weeks. Was is that in die Tag, in these days, Leint men Alaman Parshas Masai. We're always reading this week's Torah portion, Masai. So here we have 3 weeks of mourning for the temple. There's certain things we don't do in this. We don't make weddings, etc. In these weeks, because we're reminding ourselves that our bad choices brought about the destruction of the temple, the first and the second temple. Which, I mean, that's a terrible tragedy. On the other hand, it's a good news also, because God, instead of destroying the Jewish people, he just destroyed his building. Now, the Jewish people deserved the same thing that happened to the building. God forbid should happen to them. They were not living up to God's expectations. So God said, don't worry, I love you unconditionally, but you can't keep up doing this way. I'm going to destroy the temple. As the Inyani Velchahaben Zugebracht, the things which brought to this 3-week period of mourning, the Yud Zayin Tammuz, when the Romans, some people say both the Romans and the Babylonians broke through the walls of the walls of the outer wall of the temple, and then on Tisha B'Av, when they destroyed both temples, as what brought to this is the Jews didn't do what God wanted. They made the wrong choices. Is when nit the Arabus from the Ummahs, if there wasn't mixing in from the what's called the evil impulse, hat men ze gekent oisnutz, and you could have used for a very, very high thing in holiness. For instance, the sin of the golden calf. I don't know if you know it, but the sin of the golden calf was a terrible sin. Of course, when the Jews came out of Egypt, they received the Torah 40 days after they worshiped the golden calf. Well, the fact is, in the first temple, there was a king of there was a division. After King Solomon died, there was a division. There was 10 tribes that went up to the north, and the leader was a great, if you want to call it, a holy, gifted person called Yerovam ben Nevat, and he made 2 golden calves. 2 golden calves, and the Jewish people served the golden calves for the whole 250-year duration of the 10 tribes, till they got, that was the 10 tribes got exiled, but they worshipped the golden calf. What about the sin of the golden calf? Was is their source? That's the source of all the sins that came afterwards. Is Dach Yadu, it's known that the sin was that the Jews had. Why did the Jews make the sin of the golden calf? Because when they crossed over the Yam Suf, and also when they received the Torah, so they saw all the upper worlds. The Jews contemplated what's called the chariot of God, which there's the face of the lion and the face of the eagle. Remember, we learned in Yechezkel, Chezkiel. And it says there's the face of the ox on the chariot of God. When God gave the Torah, as kumta choiso, it comes out that afilu azoy inyan, such a high thing, which was the chariot of God, that was the source of all animal life in the world. They saw at Mount Sinai, and so it says it's such a high thing it could bring to such a big sin. Biz to say to the sin of the golden calf. Is b'shas is b'charta b'chayim. But if they would have just chosen life, in other words, they were given a choice that they had to make. If they would have chosen life, and made the right choice, here we go. Farmedet men dem chet un nachmer, that they could have avoided the sin, but even more, men nutztem, you could have used that energy that they used for sinning, dam inyan, from a madriga nilis, for a very, very high thing. Biz suis bonus b'merkava, to alfei shinan. It says that they used from the thinking about the angels. It says that it was even higher than what Yechezkel ben Buzi saw. The prophecy of Yechezkel ben Buzi. So in other words, they took a tremendously high, beautiful thing, which was the upper worlds and the awareness that God is creating these upper worlds, how great God is. And they took it and they brought it down. They said, this is the God that took us out of Egypt. Here, you remember the face of the ox? Like it says also by Yerovam ben Nevat. Yerovam ben Nevat, that's who I just told you about. Was B'shas the Mishnah, was B'shas the Mishnah, while bringing a dugma, when the Mishnah, Pirkei Avos, it brings an example of such a person that he sinned and he made everybody else sinned. Der month Yerovam ben Nevat, the worst of the worst. Not only did he sin, he made the golden calf, but he made everyone else worship the golden calf. Nevertheless, von deswegen, nevertheless, Zok Toifim, the Gemara says, as had gelernt Kuf Kaf Panim B'Torah's Kahanim. He said he knew 103 different explanations on every sentence in the book of Leviticus. Torah Kahanim is the midrash on Leviticus. As who mitchaseh b'simla chadasha, he said he sat with a new garment. V'shneim levadim, him and Achia Hashiloni, they sat together in the field. Ered learned Suzam, and he learned together with Achia Hashiloni that he was like 1,000 years old, whatever. He taught King David. He was one of those that came from Egypt. Un mecharesh given azoy chidushim, he made such novel and correct ideas, interpretations of the Torah. In Torah, was nor ze beder hadn't gekent, only they could know. It says that all the other wise men of the generation, this is the first temple, says they were like how do you say, chaff of garlic chaff. It's just like they were like nothing compared to them. Like it says, weeds in the field. Nor durch them taruvas, but because all of a sudden got mixed in his own selfishness. 1 second. Here we go, like this. Let's see if this works. Because God from the Umatzeh, from the opposite side, is this Bayim Roiske the Katseya Yoter Hafchi. He took, instead of making 103 interpretations on every sentence in the book of Leviticus, as they used the kuf, that energy, which is the 103, to make the golden calf, which golden calf is the same numerical value as Egel. It's 103. So he took all that good that he had and he flipped it around and it became bad. And he was very successful at making bad. He convinced everyone to be like him. Is aber moving, so it's understood as durach ubacharta b'chaim, by choosing life, as Voltaire gekent, he could have made the same ideas, or Roisnus, and he could have used his intelligence that he used, his insights that he used to make the golden calf and to convince everybody that it was a right thing to do. I mean, how in the world he did that, I have no idea, but he did. Listen, when the Jews got out of Egypt, so they received the Torah, they heard directly from God at Mount Sinai, directly from God. I am God that took you out of Egypt. That's the first of the 10 commandments. The second is don't worship anything else. And the Jewish people heard that. And then they said, we can't take any more. It's too much of a revelation. But they heard directly from God, only worship the God that took you out of Egypt. And what did they do as soon as they thought Moses wasn't going to come down from Mount Sinai. They thought he delayed in coming down. So they said, they made a golden calf, and they said, this is the God that took us out of Egypt. Here he is. We saw him on Mount Sinai. This is the golden calf. Remember, we saw the face of the ox? This is the golden calf. So they worshipped back then, because it seems that it doesn't take much to convince Jews to do idolatry. It doesn't take much. Idolatry is a very powerful force in the world. It says that the wise men of the Jews, that they negated the power of idolatry. So it's not like it was, but it still exists. Basically, the whole church is idolatry in one form or another. So it's a thing that's very, very appealing and very comforting. And this, but that same energy, that's what the Rebbe is trying to say. It's not predetermined that we're going to follow that bad path. We have the energy to do good and the energy to do the opposite. And from the opposite, we see what power we have to do good. That's what it says Tshuva, the idea of return, means that you return also all that bad energy that you put in, and you realize, well, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to follow my urges anymore. When a zoy is, so it is regarding these 3 weeks. As the inyanim welche haben dazu zugebracht, the things which brought to the destruction of the temple, those hundreds of years of bad choices that the Jewish people made, is when nit the haruvas the l'umaza, if it wasn't for getting mixed in the forces of selfishness and evil, and again, because man is basically good, especially the Jews are basically good, and they want to serve the Creator. Like we said so many times before, just like no normal person will cut off his own leg, because it's his own leg. So the same thing, will feel attached to the Creator. We're creations of God. We can't cut ourselves off. It would feel good. But God created the world that He wants us to have urges to do the opposite also. And we have to choose. It says the same thing is these 3 weeks, we're commemorating bad choices that we made that could have been good. That's the point. It could have been good. We just, for some reason, abandoned the good energy inside of us. And instead of connecting it to the source of energy, we decided to be selfish. If it wasn't for this mixing in of leumatza, of our own selfishness, as volt from zeh gekent, oisgekommen, it could have come out a very, very high thing in holiness. These 3 weeks. When oich nachdem, and even afterwards, what about from now? Wie der leumatza hat sich arois gemischt, and now that the side of bad, the side of selfishness gets mixed in, is durch tshuva, right? From now on, we can do tshuva if we just reconnect ourselves back to our source. Who's creating us? Who's giving us life? Then what can be, then we can, if we reconnect, then that's an amazing feat that we've done. Then purposeful sins become merits. Durch tshuva is mer nigalim. By means of doing tshuva, we will be redeemed. The geula shlema, and the total redemption. Un hayomim elu, these days yavchu l'sasan v'simcha. It says in the these days will be transformed into days of rejoicing. Like we learned, remember in last week, that there'll be new holidays. It says there'll be such a revelation of God that all of the holidays, we won't feel the joy in them anymore. We'll do the holidays, Passover and things, because they're written in the Torah. We have to do them. All the commandments will still be there, even in the raising of the dead. It says commandment, but we won't do the commandments because of in order to make more light in the world, more good in the world. The world will already be good. So, including the holidays, but there'll be new holidays. Which holidays? These bad days, the fast days, which because of the destruction of the temple, Tisha B'Av, the 7th day, they'll be transformed to good. And those holidays that are a result of this transformation will be higher than the regular holidays, Passover and Shavuot and Sukkot that we keep now. Durch dem Bein HaMetzorim vet men zukommen, by means of these bad days will come to a nachla b'li Metzorim, an inheritance which is unlimited. Was is vet nisgal, they'll be revealed soon, very quickly, in Bias Moshiach Tzidkenu. In other words, all of the things that caused us to do bad, those are superficial. And essentially, we are good. Therefore, if you want to be saved from evil, just make the right choices. You want to be saved from the bad things you did in the past, regret them and start making good choices, because you are essentially good. You are essentially good. You don't need anyone or any other power except for God, right? Well, that's already there. God is already with you. If you're alive. If you're not alive, then you can ignore this message. But if you're alive, then it's God that's creating you. So you're basically good. So all you have to do is say, listen, all the bad things I did in the past, they're just mistakes. And the reason I made mistakes, God, is because you put me in the world that's full of urges and confusion. So forgive me. Immediately God forgives. But you have to make a resolution on the future also and say, okay, from now on, I'm only going to listen to the good. When I have a choice, I'm going to think, listen, what does God want me to do in this situation? And that's what the Torah is for, and that's what the 7 Noah commandments are for. And we can use this energy, negative energy, for positive energy, and realize that the energy really was not negative. It was positive energy that we just redirected it to not good things. But essentially, the world is good. Essentially, man is good. All we have to do is come back to that good, and then we'll see the true good of Hashem, the Creator. Okay, now, 1 second. Let me just turn this off 1 minute. Oh, here it is.